What is going on, everybody? I hope everyone is having a tremendous Friday so far. We are off the heels of a couple very, very important, very massive Sixers wins, one against the Thunder and one against the Miami Heat. I'm going to break down a little bit of what I saw and what I thought was the most interesting in those two games. So, obviously, on Tuesday, it was Joel Embiid's return at home against the Oklahoma City Thunder after a very weird issue about the reporting. It was said that he was out up until about 6 o'clock, an hour and a half about before the game started. And I think everyone was just kind of like, really? Like, after all the reporting and all the rumors, he's really going to be out for this game? And I think we were all kind of, especially at Liberty Ballers, were assuming it was going to be Tuesday. So for him to come back against the Miami Heat on the road in Miami, I don't know. Obviously, you'd rather him come back at home. And I'm very happy he did, because since Maxey was out, he was really the only way the Sixers were going to win this game against the Thunder. The Thunder had SGA out and Jalen Williams, so they were missing, obviously, some weapons there and made it a little bit more manageable for the Sixers. But the Thunder, man, their system offensively is something to watch. The way they move the ball, and there's literally no one, especially with SGA out, just like taking more shots than anyone else. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if all of them had a very similar shot share, almost like a shot equality. So I think that was pretty interesting, and the role players were kind of just getting used to playing with him. I thought Kyle Lowry and Cam Payne did a pretty good job of playing the ball handler role with Joel, especially in the pick and roll. Lowry was able to kind of get him that mid-range free throw line jumper that we all know and love to see Joel hit every time. And in their first game playing, that's pretty good. Obviously, there's going to be a couple of turnovers there, but nothing really stood out to me about how the role players were fitting in with Joel on Tuesday. Tobias had a pretty good game on Tuesday, all things considered. I think it was like 18 points about there, and he looked pretty good, and he played solid defense against the Thunder. It was a good matchup for him. But I think Nico Batum is our saving grace here. I mean, he is a smart player who can really pass the ball. He knows where to be on defense, and we'll get to what he did in the Heat game, but just insane stuff in terms of just his passing ability as a big man and being a phenomenal entry passer. And we have been through some tough times when it comes to entry passing, so that has been a point of emphasis. And I think one other thing about the Tuesday game was you saw a little bit of dribble handoff action with Buddy Hield, which kind of gave me flashbacks of the JJ Redick dribble handoffs that Brett Brown absolutely loved when JJ was here. So that was very cool to see that almost make a return. Obviously, Joel would love getting those assists without really having to pass it more than 2 feet. And Buddy Hield, if he can get that defender screened by Joel, can have an open shot. Unfortunately, though, Buddy did not have a great game against the Miami Heat. I'll spoil it right here. He did not make a single shot. He made 2 free throws for a whopping 2 points. Definitely one of his worst games as a member of the Sixers. And he's been a little bit struggling, but I think once he gets one good game with Joel, he's going to be kind of more consistent and not as hit or miss. At least that's what I'm hoping. So in between the two games, though, Nick Nurse went on The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and I found a couple things he said just to be a little bit hopeful and interesting. He said he likes, especially with Embiid out, he needed to see the quote-unquote compete level. He was, quote, raising the compete level up. So obviously it probably would have been easy for the guys to let their guard down with Joel out and lose a little bit of focus, but they have apparently been doing a good job, and that is Nick Nurse kind of pushing them to keep their compete level up. He spoke on Joel being fresh going into the playoffs and that it's probably the freshest he has been going into the playoffs. And he spoke on just how he's preparing for the adjustments of the playoffs, which was my biggest takeaway from the entire interview. I mean, how refreshing is it to hear that we're going to have a head coach that knows how to adjust in the playoffs and is already thinking ahead about it and thinking about that battle. And he said it's almost a different sport when the playoffs come around, which I don't know if it's a different sport, but it's definitely the maximum enjoyment and maximum like knowledge being put out onto the court by the coaches the best they can. Like at least they try their best in terms of adjustments. It's about if the players can really execute them or not. So then we get to the Miami Heat game, and Maxey returns. It's the biggest game of the year, considering we are only a game or one game out of we were a game and a half behind Miami going into this one. They were in the 7th seed. We were in the 8th seed. Tobias Harris was out, so that let Nico Batum start, and Kelly Oubre starting as well, and Kyle Lowry started. So it was Maxey, Lowry, Oubre, Batum, and Embiid, and that lineup looked very, very good. Maxey put on an absolute show. He was cooking from the beginning. They went on a 10-0 run to start the game. And obviously, we know the Heat are going to come back and literally not care about what the score is and just keep going. Batum had a nice inbound lob to KJ Martin, who provided just really solid minutes off the bench for them in this game. And I think that is just an undervalued type of thing that Nick Nurse has been doing, is not only rotating out a lot of these G League guys, like Doughton getting a standard contract after the two-way, and he's getting them in the lineup and they're focused and they're engaged. And I think KJ Martin had a massive bucket down the stretch in this one as well. And that just kind of goes to show how well the coaching staff keeps these guys ready to get on the court. So Maxey had a fucking heater, an absolute heater. And pardon my language, but it was that kind of game. And especially since Maxey in the Christmas game in Miami, he had a very poor game. I think he had under 20 points. He only made like 6 of 20 shots or something like that. Very, very poor game. One of his worst games of the year. To get one of his best games of the year during one of the most important games of the year is massive for Tyrese Maxey. He finished with 37 points, 9 rebounds, and 11 assists, a rebound shy of his first career triple-double, which I don't know how he got 9 rebounds. I don't even remember half of them, but half of his assists were to Joel, who finished with 29 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Joel, after the first game, was exhausted. You could tell it was his first game. And he said how he was battling depression during the injury and how he was kind of battling with a lot of the mental side. And it was a little bit tougher for this injury compared to his last injuries. And I think just this second game is probably more important than the first game in seeing that he's going to be fine, because you saw that little bit of improvement. And he even said to Maxey after the game, which was my favorite part of the whole night, that he's like, hey, I'm getting a little bit better every time. Just imagine what we could do, as Maxey outscored him. So if Maxey can somehow keep doing this in the playoffs, who knows what the Sixers can do. It is a scary thing, the hope that is being embedded into the fan base right now with Joel back, and kind of the seeding breaking as right as it possibly could. If we can somehow manage to get the 7th seed and play the Bucks and get Doc in the first round, I think we would all feel much more comfortable about that than facing the Boston Celtics as the 8th seed. There were a couple plays against the Heat that I thought were kind of funny. So Lowry just brought the ball up. Joel was at the top of the key, moving towards the 3-point line at the top. And Lowry just tossed him the ball, moved right in front of him, and just kind of like an offensive lineman blocked 2 defenders at once for Joel to hit the 3. And Joel hit it. And then a few possessions later, Joel does the exact same thing for Kyle Lowry. And I think in the rule book it would be a moving screen, but since it was kind of nonchalant and subtle, they didn't call it, and we got 6 points out of it. Insane. It's almost like those kinds of plays. It's like I don't know what the play is. Let me give the ball to Joel. I'll block, and then we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we don't get called for a moving screen. But no, like they're literally offensive linemen pushing the defenders back for Joel to hit the shot, and then Joel did the same thing for Kyle Lowry. Obviously, probably a little bit easier for Joel to do that than Kyle to do that. But Joel dove for a loose ball. I think it was in the third quarter. God, jeez, that was scary. He's returning from this left knee injury, and the first thing he does is grab his right knee, exhale. I was telling some of my friends they should call a foul anytime he falls down on the ground. It should not. It should if the league wants to protect Joel, this was the theory. If the league wants to protect Joel, they should call a foul on him every time he falls down, because when he falls down, things don't go well and he gets hurt. Keep him upright. The refs should make this a point of emphasis to keep him upright. League wide, every ref should know. What else we got? We had a couple offensive rebounds, a steal from Nico Batum off an inbound, just getting Tyrese Maxey an open three, trailing. So Batum is really, really, if the Sixers are going to do anything, Batum is going to be the Robin to both Joel and Maxey's Batman. I don't think that was a great analogy because there's not really two Batman. But anyways, Maxey finished with 37, and I think it was really one of his best games of the year. I know he had the 51-pointer, but Joel, when he's on again, and this is what I've been saying, if he can just be 70% of what he was before his injury, they'll be chilling, man. And he is operating from the mid-range like he was. In the fourth quarter, it looked like his legs were not under him, so the shots were short, and he was just launching from deep anyways. So you would like to see him get a little bit more in the post in the fourth quarter, but you're not going to worry about that until he starts feeling a little bit better. But for Maxey to be able to enforce a run with Joel out, like Joel's plus minus in this game was not great just because he wasn't getting back on defense and the Heat were pushing in transition. So the Sixers needed that run when they were down by like 8 at like halfway through the fourth in order to, with Joel sitting with Paul Reed and Oubre and Batum in order to get back. And they were just hitting threes, and the Heat went cold at the worst time for them. And the Sixers were able to pull out the victory with a couple huge mid-range shots from Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey's mid-range in this game was insane, and both of them are hitting from the mid-range. Both of them are hitting shots, and Joel's getting to the foul line. You're not going to be able to put 5 players on the court that are able to guard both of them. Like, if you're going to lean your defense towards Embiid, you're going to be too big and too slow to guard Maxey. And if you're going to lead your defense to play small for Maxey and fast, you're going to be too small for Joel. And I would not want to be a coach going against them. The Heat are scary, though, and this play-in, if we could somehow get the 6th seed, that would be golden, but we would need a little bit of luck in that scenario to happen. So I think that will just about do it for me. Hopefully the Sixers will continue this run. They play Memphis. They play the Grizzlies on Saturday, and I think on paper that's an easy win, but Jaren Jackson Jr. just put up 40 and beat the Milwaukee Bucks. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully it's not another trap game for the Grizzlies, and Joel can take advantage of Triple J, which shouldn't be too difficult for him. Paul Reed has been playing solid. A bunch of the role players. Campaign didn't have a great game last game. Like I said, Buddy Hield didn't have a great game last game. Kyle Lowry just knows what the frick is going on at every time. Like Batum. I feel like they are operating at a different brain level than a lot of the other guys. So it's really interesting. The hope in this whole run has been scary, yet exciting. And I think it's only time will tell where this goes. Hopefully everyone stays healthy. And yeah, make sure to check out libertyballers.com. We have incredible writers doing great work still and always. Make sure to check out the YouTube channel and to subscribe if you have not already. And I will catch you guys after the next one. There might be some new announcements coming out soon, so make sure you're following Liberty Ballers on Twitter. Deuces again.